Shalawam, and welcome back to The Hidden Chosen. I am Destabilize, and I am back with a kind of food for thought topic called The Agenda to Destabilize. And this is part one, what they don't want you to know, what they don't want us to know. And I had done a previous recording, and somehow the file was corrupted, and only a small portion of it was uploaded to the YouTube channel. And so when I tried to edit, because there was a portion of it that I needed to edit out, and I realized it was only 13 minutes for a video that was over an hour and 13 minutes. So I had posted it with, I had pre-scheduled it. I forgot that I had pre-scheduled it because I tried to upload it 3 or 4 times, and each time it was the same issue. I forgot I had pre-scheduled it, and then when I saw it coming up, I'm like, oops, let me just get that off ASAP. And so what I've had to do, I know that there is a problem because the computer is ancient, and so all the apps are crying out for for upgrade, and that will be happening soon, but not right now. In the meantime, all I can do is do smaller portions, smaller studies, so to speak, and until I get to that point where I can actually do something about this issue. All right, so let's get started because the computer has no patience. Or should I say the app has no patience. So let's get started. We were warned by Hamashiach to take heed, to be aware of deception, which will come upon the entire earth. That was more than 2,000 years ago when he gave this warning. And for certain, deception is greater now than it was then. We're living under a heavy, heavy cloak of deception, web of deception, and there are layers to this deception. All right, many layers. So when you think you are seeing the light, you're not seeing the light, you're seeing their light, which is indeed darkness. All right, we have to be aware of what is going on around us, especially in these end times. And if we're caught unawares, then the web of deception will certainly drag us under. And that's the purpose of all this deception, all these agendas, all these narratives, all these lies, is to, you see what a net does. First, it anchors you to the ground, can't get up, and then you're able to be dragged easily into the lair. And this is what these devils want, to drag us under, to bring us under their control. Okay? This is the plan of the enemy to overwhelm us with their evil agendas and narratives to the point of submission to whatever their recommendations will be. So, get us so bogged down with problems, with issues, with anxieties, with frustrations, all kinds of negative emotions, to the point where we have no choice but to cry out to them, the creator of our chaos, the creator of our anxiety, to cry out to them for help. They already have the solution. They're just waiting for us to cry out, to come to them to say, help us get back on track. This worked perfectly in the past, and now they have upped their game, as this will be their last chance before being destroyed permanently. They know full well their end is near. So let's look at Matthew chapter 24, verse 4. And Yahweh also answered them and said unto them, take heed that no man deceive you. We have to be careful, because We listen to a man and what he says, and because it sounds good to our ears, we cry out to him like he's Savior. He is not the Savior. And this is the issue with a lot of people and Mr. T, the orange guy who runs America, the President of the United States. They look to him like a Savior. All that he does is good to them, even when it's not good. But they don't have a choice because he is their savior. He is going to make America great again. And this is what people want. They want to be on top again. All right? And so you have all kinds of people, whether believers or not, are hanging their hat on his every word, believing everything that he says and trusting him. And he's the one that is the leading this narrative, leading this agenda to destabilize. All right, we're going to get there. Hamashiach warned us, do not believe everything that comes out of a man's mouth. That's why he said, take heed. He said, be warned, be aware. Be aware because deception is here. These people operate professionally as liars and deceivers. This is what they're good at because their father is the father of lies. And they're just his pawns. Do you think something good can come from them? All right. Hamashiach went further to outline all of the end times events for his disciples, but most of those events are meant for us today. Few were meant for them, and then another few were meant for the Maccabean period, and then the balance is meant for us today of these end times events. It's just that when you look at Matthew chapter 24, Luke chapter 17 and chapter 21, and Mark chapter 13, the devils that be, they have rearranged those chapters. All right? That's the reason why people don't understand the order of events of the end times. Okay. When we look at the outline, although broad in their terms, we can still attribute everything that we are experiencing today to what he said would happen. And now we're living in the midst of all these terrible events. But we are not to fear or become anxious or worried. Instead, seeing these things should bring joy to our hearts, as it means that our redemption is drawing near. All right, let's look at Luke chapter 21, verse 28. And when these things begin to happen or begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draws near. So now we're seeing all these things happening around the world, even in our own countries, escalating, intensifying, and becoming more and more frequent. All these disasters. Okay? That is those are the indicators to let us know that our redemption draws near. And that's why Hamashiach said to look up. Why do you think he said to look up? Look up because we're going to go in a second Exodus into the wilderness? No, he's telling the southern kingdom, you need to look up, lift up your heads. When you lift up your heads, what are you going to see? The sky, right? So this means that our redemption is coming from above, and that's where we're going. Simple. We are to be looking for our redemption which will be the time when the southern kingdom will be taken off this earth in the chariots. That's why he said, look up. That's where the chariots are coming from above. We're not going into a second Exodus, into a wilderness. We're going to be taken off the earth. There is so much evidence to support this fact. As wars and rumors of wars are escalating greater and greater each day. That's one thing that we need to pay attention to as a sign that Hamashiach said to watch for. There is the destructive and dramatic changes in the weather. That's another thing he said to look for. The increase of strange anomalies occurring in the sky. The increase of infections amongst people and animals. And these, although just a few chaotic occurrences, they spawn offshoots of many others. Meaning that you have the increase of infections amongst people and animals, especially the animals, because they're claiming that animals have some sort of disease, so they need to be destroyed. So it's putting pressure on the production of what or what these animals would have produced, I should say. So you destroy the chickens, there goes your meat called chicken. Eggs. All right, because if you don't have any chickens, you can't have any eggs. Same thing with the cattle, the cows. Destroy the cows, there goes your beef. There goes your milk, your cheese, your butter. All right. So these and that lack of these items create what we know as famine. And it's not just these two animals, but we know that it is there are other things that are affecting our food sources. If you have a drought, then it means crops are going to die, as well as the animals. If you have flooding, it means that your crops are going to die, and so will the animals. If you have fires breaking out and burning down everything, that means that your crops are destroyed, and so will your animals be destroyed as well. Okay? So, and that will create the famine. And that is what is creating, I should say, famine upon the earth. Okay? So that's what I mean offshoots. The purpose of this study is to inform on the progression of evil as it is revealed to me. And what is currently occurring is an agenda to destabilize. And this I've been watching since December of last year. Since December of last year, the Most High has placed these thoughts on my heart to allow me to know what's going on. I read the headlines, but I listen to what Ruach HaKodesh is telling me, what is truly going on. Okay? These people, they have forked tongues. They will not tell you the truth. So you cannot depend on them to give you the truth. They will expose what they're doing, but the purpose for what they're, as to why they're doing these things, you need to go to Ruach HaKodesh to find out. They'll tell you one thing that sounds feasible and good to your ears, but there is a nefarious reason. There's always something nefarious behind what they're doing. Always. Okay? And they want to destabilize. That's what it's all about. This is the game. All that is occurring here on the earth is to provoke instability on every tier of existence known to man. That is economically, financially, emotionally, spiritually, and even physically, as in the displacement of peoples around the world, destabilizing countries' economies, which in turn destabilizes its people through these nefarious events spawned by the wicked, right? So when we look at physically has to do with how well or how poorly a country is doing economically, because it will destabilize the people. If you have if your economy is poor, suffering, then the people in the country will also be poor and suffering. Physically, displacements also have to do with all the terrible weather events that are destroying people's homes. So they have to relocate, they have to be moved. Whether fires, floods, storms, hurricanes, tornadoes. People are being removed from their homes because their homes are being destroyed. And this is the only way you can get a man out of his house, is you got to destroy it. And with all these weather changes are being provoked by their technology called HAARP. They're messing with the ionosphere and creating droughts one place, floodings in another, tornadoes in another, earthquakes in another, volcanic eruptions in another. So this entire earth now is being beaten down with these chaotic um, weather changes. All right, let's read the next. Wars and rumors of wars. Nothing destabilizes a country faster than wars. What is occurring are wars being provoked and at the same time funded by the manufacturers of the weapons needed for these wars. These wicked people that own the manufacturing companies that make these weapons are the same 1% that run this world. All right? They're the shadow government. They're the ones that fund wars on both sides. They're the ones that provoke wars in different countries. It is them. All right? And they make you think that there's a real conflict. There's no conflict. When you look at the crane country and the bear country, they used to live together. They're of the same bloodline. And now all of a sudden, you have them fighting against each other. Why? For what reason? Because it was a conflict spurred on by the devils and being funded at the same time by the same devils. Both sides are being funded and weaponized. They're given weapons. I'm not sure if that was the right word. They're both given weapons. Don't worry about the sources of where they tell you the weapons are coming from. That's how weapons are filtered into countries. Because if they came directly from the original source, then people be quite scratching their head, but how come you're sending weapons to the bear country and you're sending weapons to the crane country? What's up? What's going on? So what they're doing is they're sending the weapons to the countries that support whatever side of the conflict is occurring, or whoever is on that side of the conflict. So the friends of the bear country will be the ones that will receive the weapons in order to supply them to the bear country. The friends of the crane country will be the ones that will supply the weapons to the crane country. But the weapons themselves come from the same source. All right? The 1% that is running this world. And they're doing it because they want to create conflict. They want to create instability. They want to destabilize that country. They want to destroy the economy of that country, of those countries, because both will be destroyed. So that they now can come in and rebuild the infrastructure. That's where they're going to get the money. They get the money for selling the weapons and they get the money for rebuilding the countries. And who do you think that money comes from? The taxpayers. That's why I'm going to show you something in a little while. Us, the taxpayers, we pay taxes for them to use our money to fund these wars and then to rebuild the countries. It's all a diabolical game that they're playing. And we're caught in the middle. And when you're ignorant of the truth, you're going to take sides. Don't take any sides in these conflicts. They're both buddy buddies with each other. You think Putin and that other one that dressed in high heels and a skirt, right? Forgot his name. The Korean country president or whatever he is. You think that they're enemies against each other? They're friends. They're all friends. It doesn't matter what face they show to the cameras. When the cameras go off, they trust me, they're meeting up together to plan the next strategy. That's what they do. They all come together around the table and eat and drink and laugh at the foolish people on the streets, fighting against each other, thinking that I'm on the side of this country, so therefore you're my enemy because you're on the other side. You you are for the other side. Okay? This is how they're bringing division amongst people. You keep us divided, we cannot stand together. And we cannot stand against them. And that's what they want. Divide, you can conquer easily. All right. And nothing makes money faster and greater for these devils than wars. That's the name of the game, money. All right? Money. But there's a greater war now that's at hand. Trade wars. Now we have another kind of war. And every single one of us have been drafted. Right? We've been sucked into this war because this is the kind of war that tackles us inside our own homes. You see, you can read about conflicts in different countries and you can step back from it. But this kind of war now that is being waged, you can't step back from this because this now is in your own home. Can't even say in your backyard. It is now inside your home, inside your pocketbook, inside your wallet, inside your purse. Not only are there wars as in conflicts between countries, but there's now another kind of war occurring called the trade wars due to the implementation and the increase of tariffs. And this began December of last year when I have it written here, so let me read on. It was just between the US and Canada. And now we're seeing other countries jumping on this bandwagon to spread this trade war far and wide. I saw this beginning December of last year, 2024, when the Mr. T, as the orange guy of the President of the United States, warned Canada that they were going to increase their tariffs. All right? And Canada's like, hello, hold on a second. The other Mr. T, he's not there anymore, Trudeau. He is not there anymore. He's like, hold on 1 second. What are you doing? Right? And then it became more than a threat. No, there is, as as I'm speaking right now, Mr. T from the United States has established all these percentages that he is going to increase for different particular countries. In fact, over 180 something countries. The last word I heard, he's given, he has suspended for, he has suspended these tariffs for 90 days for every country except China. And he not only did he do that, but he also increased the tariff even more. I know China is doing exactly what Canada is threatening to do, which is to increase their tariffs as well on America. And so other countries are jumping on this and say, if you're going to increase your tariffs on us, we're going to increase ours on you. All right? And a lot of people believe that this is the way to go because Mr. T says so. Not realizing the purpose behind this. All right? So, what is the true purpose of these so called trade wars, of these tariffs that are being increased exponentially? If you want to increase your country's taxes exponentially without accountability, then this is the way to do it with zero liability. You see, they can't just go ahead and increase the taxes in your in the country that they're running. People will kick up fuss. So this drama brought to you by Mr. T of the United States is a way in which to trigger this economical crisis. Because that's exactly what is going to happen. There are going to be attacks against America and their dollar, which is going to cause the dollar to devalue. And anyone attached to that US dollar means that their money too, their dollar, is going to devalue. Anyone that does trade, who buys goods from America, will have a big problem. Not to mention the people inside living in the US. Big problems. So the economy of America is going to crash. Not only America, Europe, China, all around the world, economies are going to crash. This is the purpose of these trade wars. And not only to cause the economy to crash, but they are also going to increase your own personal sales tax, the federal taxes that you pay out of your salary. Taxes on the whole is going to increase to the point where you'll be bringing home nothing. All right, you work, your salaries aren't going up, but you're going to work and pay more taxes than you've ever had or you've ever heard of before. Instead of 25%, it's going to go up to 50%, even more. So you're bringing home more money. You bring home less money in your pay packet. And when you go now to go buy your groceries, those people that have to do their imports, and not only um, crops and stuff, we're talking about goods as well. Because a lot of things come from China. They're made in China and different countries. And when the manufacturers or the owners of the stores import their goods and they have to pay all these taxes, guess what's going to happen to the items? They're going to go up in price. All right? So you were able to buy a loaf of bread for about $2 or $3. Now you're going up double the price, $6. Just like what happened with eggs. Everything's going to go up. This is just the beginning. The Bible tells us in the book of Revelation that a loaf of bread is going to be the cost, is going to cost a man's wages for a year. That's famine. You have no money to purchase. And you can't complain. You can't say, my government is doing this to me, because the government is already showing you who is doing it to us, to them. And they're trying to, do their damage control sort of thing by doing it back to them. All right? So to make you feel that your government is not okay with this, and the most that they can do is to lash back. But their lashing back is also tackling the issue for the country that is imposing these tariffs. Because now the president of the United States, Mr. T, can say, well, hey, I'm doing this to make America great again. But these people are taking it personally. So now they're going to hit us with a lot of taxes. So it's not much that I can do. Prices are going to go up. We're just going to have to adapt. This is what they're doing. It is like passing the buck. No one, none of these leaders are going to take responsibility and be held accountable, because they're already broadcasting this trade war to show us that, hey, when you see things go up, when you see prices go up, this is the reason why. So don't come complaining to us. We can do nothing about this. We can do nothing about it. That's why I said zero liability. And you got to suck it up. The lifestyle that you once enjoyed, you're going to have to give it up. Might have to downsize your home. All these things you're going to have to do. And don't even talk about your savings. Don't even talk about your pension that you've been putting into some sort of account. All that is going to vanish pretty soon. See what's happening with the stock markets? People with the 401k, all that's going to vanish. You're going to have nothing, but they tell you you'll be happy. I'm telling you, this is a diabolical scheme. And if people can't see it for what it is, I feel sorry for you. I really do. When taxes come and it starts to hit us in the pocket, people are going to be hollering. They're going to be jumping up and shouting. Because it's going to be these taxes are going to be so high. You just watch and see in the next little while. But all that too is setting the stage for us to cry out to them. We are tired of being heavily laden with all these taxes. We don't want to live like this anymore. We're living beneath the poverty line now. We don't want this anymore. And then they'll say, okay, well, we do have a plan. But you're going to have to submit to us. All right? And that's when the beast system is going to rise up and the anti-Messiah is going to rise up. This is the only way to get people to cry out. Hit them in the pockets. We have to ask ourselves this question. Why is this happening at this point of time? Besides the devastations that wars bring in a country, which inevitably affects its citizens tremendously and negatively, but also these trade wars and the tariffs are to also affect the citizens, the consumers. We're the ones that are going to be hit the worst. Don't worry about the people who do the imports. There are two scenarios that will happen to them. If they're small businesses that do their imports from different countries, they're going to have to close their doors. But the bigger countries, sorry, the bigger companies like Costco and all the different ones, they're going to be able to stay afloat because they're owned by the same people who are running these these agendas. Look at what happened in 2020 when the whole world was locked down. Who do you think made a big profit? Same company that I just called. Why? Because they're owned by these big corporations. All right? These brand name supermarkets, they're owned by corporations. And these corporations are a lot of them, they belong to people in, higher up, other politicians or the shadow government. They're all owned. But the small mom and pop shops owned by average people like you and I, we have no money behind us. So when our sales go down, then it means our doors have to close. And that's exactly what they want. They don't want any more independent store owners, independent of them. Everything must now be filtered through them. And we now need to go to them. And they're going to have the better prices because they can buy bulk. And when they buy bulk, they can lower their prices by at least 10% or so. Whereas the mom and pop shops, when they import their stuff, they got to keep their prices high because they can't buy as much inventory as these big brand name supermarkets and stores. Not just supermarkets, but stores too. So they will be able to stay afloat. All they got to do is lay off some people, bring in the robots, bring in the robots, right? To replace the people. I'm telling you, diabolical scheme. This is the government's way of raising taxes and blaming this increase on another government of another country or countries, passing the buck, so to speak. This is also the quickest way to increase inflation in a country with little to no responsibility and accountability, as they are showcasing the tug of war matches with each other. They're broadcasting it on media, the media platforms all around the world. So there's no mystery as to why prices have gone up for everything. Cost of living gone up. This increase in cost of living, let me read that again. This increase in cost of living will go unquestioned by most people, as they have been warned already by the dutiful media. I'm telling you, it's coming. This is the purpose of these trade wars. They want to destabilize economies, countries, people all around the world. All around the world. And look what we have here, inflation. They're going to bloat taxes like you've never seen before. And you can't escape it. You will not be able to escape it. You might try, but you will not be able to. And then last but not least, taxes. Taxes are going to go up on every tier. All right? On every tier. This is the purpose behind this agenda. To increase taxes to the highest taxes and the taxes on the goods and so on and so forth. But then comes your personal taxes. That means when you go shopping and you buy something or you buy your goods, you buy your groceries, and you have to pay. And not to mention the price itself. Ever the store owner had purchased the item for plus their profit. So you're being, these people are double dipping. All right? The government is double dipping on you because you're paying your own private groceries that you buy. And then their tax is already included in the price of the item that you've just purchased, the items that you've just purchased. So you'll be oozing taxes and you won't be able to afford to buy a lot of food. You won't be able to afford to buy a lot of things if you can afford to buy anything at all. Prepare yourselves. It's going to get worse as the days go on, weeks and months go on. It's going to get worse. So just prepare yourself. So that's the ending of this part one. We're going to end with the blessing for Yashwa'al taken from Ba Madabar chapter 6, verses 24 to 26. That's Numbers chapter 6, verses 24 to 26. Yabarakak Yahweh, wa Yashamarak. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. Ya'ar Yahweh Panayo Alayak wa Yahanak. May Yahweh cause his face to shine upon you and have favor upon you. Yasha'a Yahweh Panayo Alayak wa Yashamlak Shalawam. May Yahweh lift up his face upon you and give you peace. And now we're going to recite the command we were instructed to recite when we lie down, when we get up, when we go out, and when we come in. Taken from Debarayam chapter 6, verses 4 and 5. That's Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 4 and 5. Shama'o Yashwa'al Yahweh Alahayana Yahweh Ahad wa Ahabath Ath Yahweh Alahayak Bakal Babak wa Bakal Napashat wa Bakal Ma'adak. Hear, O Yashwa'al, Yahweh our Alahayam is one Yahweh, and you shall love Yahweh your Alahayam with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might. And with that I will say, Shalawam, Shalawam, all praises to the Most High. Abba Yah.